Hi, welcome back. Good morning.
Hi. We have a lesson today. Do you remember which lesson we're on?
It's lesson 305, and our sis is going to read it for us.
Yeah, thank you. There is a peace that Christ bestows on us. There is a peace that Christ bestows on us. Who uses but Christ's vision finds a peace so deep and quiet, undisturbable and wholly changeless, that the world contains no counterpart. Comparisons are still before this peace, and all the world departs in silence as this peace envelops it and gently carries it to truth. No more to be the home of fear. For love has come and healed the world by giving it Christ's peace. Father, the peace of Christ is given us because it is your will that we be saved. Help us today, but to accept your gift. I'm going to say that again in my language. Help us today only to accept your gift and judge it not, for it has come to us to save us from our judgment on ourselves.
I was a little confused at that second sentence, and so if anybody else was too, it was comparisons. Comparisons are still before this place, or comparisons are still before this peace.
Oh, very good, sis. Comparisons are still before this peace.
Yeah, I was
Right.
trying to say like they're
Yeah.
still there, but no, they're quiet. They cease from antagonizing the mind.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I
Okay.
probably read that wrongly.
No, I think I just heard it wrong because I was, yeah, just in case somebody else out there had the same question pop up. Anyway, there we go.
Mm. Can we talk about um he says here, he says Christ's vision finds a peace so deep and quiet, undisturbable, and wholly changeless that the world contains no counterpart.
Hmm.
um, and yet, let's let's look at this, because through the mythical me, the ego, we try to find our peace or our completion in the gap. If you've got the gap diagram there, sis.
It's open. I got it. Yes.
Oh, look, I can see. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So
So we
what are
think
some
that
of the
we're gonna
things in the gap? Sorry.
we think that we'll have peace when we have completion. And we try to look for our completion in the gap. So, what does that relate to in practical terms? When I have this job, then I will be happy and at peace. When my bank account is full, I won't be afraid of lack, and then I'll be at peace. In my special relationship, my partner completes me, and then I'll be truly happy and at peace with real love, right? So, again, there's this thought of ourselves as incomplete, and that we'll find our happiness in a final rest of ta-da, I'm at peace now, I'm happy. But everything that we think that's going to complete us is in here, and let us not forget that that's a complete illusory thought system. So, of course, ego has its promise of peace, right? It has its counterpart of everything that God is. So, where is peace? The peace of God is the only peace, right? Peace of God. So the realm of our union with God is where we experience a changeless peace. Ego tries to sell us, oh, no, I've got a peace also, but you've got to do X, Y, and Z to get it. Hence the seek and don't find. Yeah. So we need to see its counterpart, the lie about the ego's definition of peace.
So there's absolutely no peace in the gap, no
I've
real
not found
peace.
it. I've never found
I don't think anybody ever has.
it. No.
And the reason for that, very simply, is because there is no peace without forgiveness.
That's right.
So if we're not practicing forgiveness daily, it's certain that we'll never find peace.
Right.
None of those trinkets in the gap are going to pay out.
And you and I were talking just before we hit record that Jesus teaches in the Course that in order to have our mind restored to knowledge, right, before this can happen, the mind has to come to a place of rest or peace. It's like just turning away. We need to forgive this before we can feel peace. While we're still worshiping, idolizing, and desiring things in the gap, the mythical me is engaged, and it's striving, and it's trying, and it's seeing unreal problems, and it's trying to fix things. That mind is never at peace, but only through forgiveness, right? The letting go of this can our mind come to a state where we're still letting go of everything that we thought before. And then when a mind is at rest or at peace, knowledge can finally arise. Yes?
Yeah. God's knowledge. Yeah.
So this one that I was showing you guys before, remember, this is what we are, or the mind of God that we share, Christ's mind. This is the circle of fear that we've imposed over it to forget what we are. Of course, it's the opposite of the mind of God. So we're walking around like this. This is our mind, and this is who we think we are. And we're having a hell of a time looking out on false symbols in an unreal world. So before we can do anything at all, it's, we forgive this. This guy becomes still. And in a moment of peace, that's when this can occur. Okay? Peace cannot arise and find its place while there's confusion, chaos, conflict, doing, problem solving, right? Yeah. So peace allows this to occur. Mind is knowledge arises in our awareness, right? And then that takes over mythical me for a while.
Yeah, and the reflection of that knowledge here in the dream is Holy Spirit's very clear guidance for us.
Yes.
It's divine inspiration. And, when we're in the flow and we really can't even imagine falling back into the ego again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. That's that. And the other thing too, sis, is that this morning, just before this lesson, I heard Jesus in my mind say, this peace, which is the peace of God he's talking about, this peace is the natural cause and effect of having truly accepted and received the felt state of our sinlessness, the felt state of our changeless, incorruptible innocence. So the outcome of that is the peace of God, right? So that incorruptible innocence, of course, is shared with all our brothers and sisters. What did you want to say?
No, I'm just really loving what he gave you, because if peace is the cause, only in a state of peace am I going to remember, is the knowledge going to dawn in my awareness that the separation has not in fact occurred. And when I know it, when that's a felt state, that God's answer was inconceivable, and therefore I have never left. I am still as God created me. I'm not the dream figure. I'm not the past. I'm not the things that I thought I've done. All of that's illusion. It's done it through forgiveness. So the felt state of my incorruptible innocence returns. And from there, all we do is rest in God. And so the effect of that also, of that peace, is peace. So peace is the condition from which the answer comes, and peace is the effect of accepting.
That's it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it like that before. But yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. That's
Thank you.
great.
Yeah, and the other thing that and I've had this experience very strongly is that when we truly drop in to recognize and receive, meaning to accept that the peace of God, what we're doing is we're accepting that we are the peace of God in that moment. Not just that we are an independent entity that is surrounded by the peace of God. That's not good enough.
No,
It's
no.
still a spiritual ego that's doing the peace of God. It really doesn't anchor itself until we have the felt experience of accepting and receiving that we are the peace of God. Because at the moment that we accept that and receive that we are the peace of God, what will come is the knowledge that we are also the will of God. Right? We are, and with that comes the memory that we must be the Christ. And in that is the felt knowledge, knowing that we are in fact fearlessness itself.
But we're not going to know that while we still believe that we are mythical me, which is having some issue. Yeah. I mean, can we talk briefly about, before we hit recording, there was a laundry list of like mythical me's and their problems, and how the I that they think they are still is preserved, and that the peace of God won't come until that recognition is made that that's not me. So each one of us here today, if I had a chalkboard up, I would write a list of names. Coreen's dealing with, I don't know, a problem. You're dealing with your name. You're dealing with that problem. So-and-so's name dealing with that problem. And we tend to start out by looking at the triggers, the problems. Everybody's talking about their problems, and we want the problems to go away. And so we slap some spiritual concepts at it until we really start learning to forgive our triggers, pull them back, and see what's underneath the belief, and forgiving that and giving it over to Holy Spirit. But still, imagine there's a list of those names and their problems. It's like, eventually we come to that place of coming up to the board and erasing the list of all the problems, because all those problems, they're all different, but they all serve the same thing, which is to make the first lie that there's an I named Bill, an I named Karen, an I named Lisa, an I named John, right? That's what all those problems serve. The problems weren't real, but they were there to protect the first lie that there could be an I apart from God and its creation. And so
experiences problems.
That's right. And so all the problems are the decoys that we get focused on, instead of realizing who is the I that's saying, I have this problem, or I want to talk about this problem, or I'm suffering from this problem. That's the key. And while we are looking out at the problems and still involved with them, the mind will never be at rest and will never access the peace of God. No. It's looking back and saying the I that thinks it has a problem is the subject of Jesus says you only have one problem, and it's that you think that you're separate. You think you're that I. He goes, that's your only problem. Forgive that. Now you have access. When you forgive the idea of mythical me as being what you are, now you are able to receive the peace of God. That's the scouring out of the mind, emptying out even all the problems, the past, all those things that we think we wanted, down to the sense of myself as a separate person. Now the peace can come, because this mind is not gnawing on the false self and its problems, right? So I guess we're just pointing to take it all the way back. Don't just stop at healing the problems and trying to have a better mythical me experience, but really forgiving the idea that you are as you could never be.
Yeah, thank you, sis. Because when we genuinely fall into, that's what it feels like,
Mm-hmm.
when we fall into the peace of God, we surrender mythical me to fall into that peace of God.
Yeah.
Every prayer is answered there.
Mm-hmm.
Every prayer is answered there. It's a shift in identity.
Yes.
Okay. You
Yes.
cannot see, mythical me cannot accept the peace of God.
No.
Right? So when we access the peace of God, which is the will of God, every prayer is answered there. And it's a fearless state because we've accepted our own incorruptible innocence, and it's changeless, it's eternal, it's uninterrupted. That's the truth, right? But when we switch back, when we choose to switch back to mythical me
Mm-hmm.
in our mind, we lose it. We lose that peace.
Yeah, because we're here and we're just electing. I'm Coreen and I have this problem. I'm Coreen, I'm having this problem, and I want to forgive this problem. And the ego goes, okay, you can do that, but as long as you're still Coreen forgiving a problem. And now we're looking at, well, what is Coreen? Coreen is the offshoot of the ego thought system. So I don't have to worry about Coreen and the world that that figure's seeing. I need to address the mind that gave rise to Coreen, right? This is what needs to be really forgiven. And so we're toggling between we're with the Holy Spirit, we're in the flow and we're letting our decisions be made by Holy Spirit. And then our senses perceive something and we lock into it and we're back into the old thought system. So this is really the practice. Are we coming from the ego thought system or is it a God thought? Notice that mythical me and the gap is not even in that equation. We've forgiven this. Now the practice is, which mind are you in? And for myself right now, it's a mantra of my mind holds only the thoughts I think with God. Anytime there's a foreign thought or something that upsets me or wants to hook me, I can just say, my mind holds only the thoughts that I think with God. So is that even a real thought? Is that a God thought? No. Is that originating from my holy self? No. Do I need to entertain it? No. Do I have to give it any more energy? No. You just drop it. If it's a God thought, that's my mind that I share with God. That's where I want to be. And so this is all there is left to practice. Yeah.
Well, now you've brought that practice up. In 2016 or 2017, I had a huge epiphany. Like, we have many awakenings before we do the final awakening. There was an awakening, and that was brought about by that lesson. My mind holds only what I think with God. Yeah. And during those weeks where the light was flooding in, came some other little mantras came into my mind too, which helped immensely. Because I was having body issues at that time. I had a lot of root problems, ego root problems. And of course, they were being reflected in the need, the proposed need for root canals. Have you ever had a root canal done?
I think so. A long time ago. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's what I was going through. It was the dentist and all this stuff. But of course, it revealed to me that the body was only reflecting the ego root beliefs that were being uprooted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so a little mantra came in at that same time, which helped me. And it was, my body holds only what I feel with God.
Ooh, that's so good. Right.
When you really take that and say that, 10
Yes.
times with meaning, eyes closed, really
Yes.
feel it, feel that, then what happened? What happened for me was the body became light
Hmm.
and there was no body. And the idea of pain, which can't be felt in the body, but only in the mind, that's a truth, right? It
Yes.
seems like it can be felt in a root canal or whatever.
Right. Right.
It's in the mind.
That's
Well, the
it.
pain has to disappear because I've joined my will with God. So my body
Yes.
holds only what I feel with God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my
Love it.
mind holds only what I think with God.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's giving the mind total dominion over the idea of the body that's in our thought. So
Yeah.
before it was being governed by the ego thought system, and now we're placing it under the divine mind.
Mm.
And so, of course, when the mind is now operating the body, right? The mind is giving rise to the body, which is a now moment projection in our what mind. Of course, it can only feel what it's feeling with the will and mind of God, and it's only thinking the thoughts in the mind that it shares with the mind of God. Yeah, completely governing
Mm.
the body.
Mm.
I love that one. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, good. And there's something else here too. And I don't know whether it's important. Before I said that all prayers are answered in the peace of God, right? All prayers are answered in the peace of God. And of course, no prayer can be answered if we still desire something in the gap
Yes. Yes.
more than the peace of God. I just want to say that it's really important.
Well, that's the in line with there is a peace. There is a peace that Christ bestows on us. So again, it's not mythical me attaining a level of peace. It's not mythical me doing anything to get to a place of peace. It is only in the total surrender of mythical me and its gap
Mm.
that Christ bestows on us. And what does that mean? That's when the truth dawns in our mind. That's when peace is bestowed. Bestowing is to, place upon. So it's in a moment of surrender that peace will be bestowed upon us by what? The Christ, our right mind, our true identity. So it's a remembering and a resting in that. Oh, I still am as God created me. I need do nothing.
Yeah, and a little example of how we can, how the ego can quickly hijack this is if I am feeling challenged by a body condition for myself or say for another,
Mm-hmm.
and if I look at my priorities, I want the condition or the disease or whatever it might be healed
Mm-hmm.
more than I want the peace of God.
That's right.
It ain't going to happen.
Mm-mm.
Right.
No.
So, it's because what we're actually doing is when we want the body healed, either ours or another's, or whatever it might be out in the world, if we want that more than the peace of God,
Mm-hmm.
what we're actually doing through the ego is we're wanting the problem more than the peace of God, right?
And we're wanting this the one that's experiencing the problem to have a better experience. So we're idolizing mythical me. We're saying I want a better mythical me experience. I don't want to have my mind healed where mythical me is unselfed and seen as nothing. I want to keep the self and have a healing. That's
Yeah.
not going to happen because
It's
real
not-
healing is the unselfing in the recognition of what you are.
Yeah. So if I'm still concerned and that hasn't been properly forgiven,
Mm-hmm.
truly forgiven, then it's going to be that I want to keep the fear or my
Yeah.
concern more than I want the peace of God, right?
Right.
So healing can't take place. It just cannot take place
Mm-hmm.
while I prioritize my fear, right?
Yes. Yes. That's
That's
it.
it. Yeah.
Thank you. That's so
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Who knew that that was going to unpack so much? But this is so big, if peace is the condition to knowledge, that's isn't there a workbook? The peace of God is all I want.
Yes, very good, sis. 185.
Thank you.
Wow, where'd that come from?
Wow, well done, sis.
Hello. Good.
Yeah, that's
Good.
excellent.
Somebody
Yeah.
alive in my mind.
So this is this is a huge topic, big subject, necessary. Yes. Okay.
And we do have a blog, believe it or not, and I remembered. And the blog is, and we have mentioned this before a few times in other lessons, but the blog is called The Missing Piece.
Yeah. But catchy title.
Yeah, The Missing Piece, and it's just going to be below the video here. Yeah, directly below.
Yeah.
The Missing Piece, recommended blog.
I've been reading some of your recent blogs that you've mentioned here, and I'm finding that I'm not in the same place that I was when I read the blog the first time, and it's just yeah, it's so good. Like the pillars of truth and love, I'm like, oh God, they always speak to us right where we're at, so you can't read them enough, and you can't read the course enough, and yeah, they change as you change, but it's so beautiful. Thank you, sis.
I should read them again then.
I was thinking to offer something like that after we're all done. That would be a great way to hold on to the family, to go back in the list of resources and do a blog study or something.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I think so. That would be fun. I would enjoy that.
Once a week for an hour and a half, and
yeah, something.
Just unpack these blogs together.
Yeah, that would be
family.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody interested? If you're interested.
Yeah, a couple people. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. Anyway, just a thought, but I just wanted to thank you again for your blogs. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thank the Christ.
Yes, I am.
Because the mythical Nouk had nothing to do with it.
No, I know, but you're the Christ that you are is just your function is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. The Christ that we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
One mind waking up. All of us part of that one. Yeah. So good. All right. That was lesson 305, everybody. We will gratefully see you next time.
Yes. Yes. See you in the morning.
See you in the morning.
Bye.